Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're continuing our look at virtual reality headsets, and today we're taking a look at the Samsung Odyssey Plus. This is the first Windows mixed reality headset that we have taken a look at, and we're going to see how this one stacks up to some of the many other choices you have out there right now. But I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid for this with my own funds. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this headset is all about. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. The first thing to note up front is that Windows Mixed Reality is nothing other than Microsoft's version of virtual reality. They have a number of manufacturers making headsets, and Samsung here happens to be one of them. But this has nothing to do with the augmented reality product they have with the HoloLens. So if you've been seeing some of that HoloLens stuff, this is not it. This is just VR. And this, I think, is probably the best of the Windows mixed reality headsets that are out there. Right now, it's on sale. I've been seeing these for $299. That's what I paid for it. It includes the headset and the controllers, but this is, given it's a Windows product, a PC-based VR headset, which means you need a computer powerful enough to drive this at its full resolution and frame rate. And as such, I would recommend a fairly decent gaming PC or laptop. I would recommend a recent i5 processor and a minimum GTX 1060 GPU from NVIDIA or the AMD equivalent. You need that GPU to make this work, and if your computer doesn't have that, you're not going to have much of a virtual reality experience. So the cost of entry goes well beyond the $300 entry point. But as you'll see as we step through everything here, this might be a nice alternative to the Oculus Rift S, because it is $100 cheaper and it works with most of the same software. So let's focus in on the headset, and then we'll come back to the controllers here in a minute. This uses what they call inside-out tracking, which means that these two cameras here on the front will track the headset's position while it's on your head, and it will also track the controllers as you move them around. So you don't have to set up any additional hardware to make this work, and you will have 6 degrees of freedom, which means that you can walk around in the 3D space freely, although you will be tethered, of course, to your computer. And it really does a pretty nice job of it, actually, for the price point. I was actually surprised by how good it ended up being, tracking me around my room. One of the things that you'll notice about this headset also is that the image quality is pretty good for the price point. It's got a 1440 by 1600 resolution into each eye here. These are OLED displays, which means that they have very nice deep black levels, so very good contrast ratio. The colors are very crisp and clear, and the displays are very crisp and clear as well. I was very surprised by how good they looked in here, actually. It was far better than my HTC Vive that I got a couple of years ago. There's very minimal screen door effect. That is something that plagues some of these cheaper headsets, where you can kind of make out each individual pixel as you're looking in the display. They've got little black boxes around them. That effect is diminished significantly with this headset, and that was one of the things that differentiates the Plus here from the prior generation Odyssey headsets. They've done a nice job with image quality, the overall contrast ratio. Things look really nice. I will say, though, that things get a little blurrier on the edges of the lenses here, so as things are kind of passing through your peripheral vision, they might look a little blurrier than they might in a more expensive headset like the HTC Vive Pro or the Valve Index that I looked at. But again, for the price point, I'm not complaining one bit. It has a 110-degree field of view, which is about what you'll see on the Vive Pro and the regular HTC Vive, and I think this is also what you'll get out of the Oculus Rift S as well. That means that your peripheral vision won't be completely covered by the lenses, but it will be very immersive, and it wasn't any worse than any of the other headsets that I've been playing with over the last couple of months here, so that wasn't bad at all. It has some adjustments on it. So what you can do is adjust what they call the IPD, the interpupillary distance. And as we move this dial here, you can see the lenses are moving closer together and farther apart. And one of the things that I suggest people do before they buy a VR headset is measure out their IPD distance. I have a video with some suggestions as to how to do that, and then find a headset that fits within the range of IPD that you have measured. This one will go from 60 to 72 millimeters, which I think will cover most people. and I was able to get an image that looked pretty good and didn't have all that much distortion to it. One thing I did find with this is that you really want to keep these lenses clean, and every time I take it off and put it back on again, I'm finding some kind of smudge on it, so I'm often cleaning them because that does make a very big difference. It fits pretty nicely. What's nice about it is that there is only one adjustment. There's no Velcro straps or anything. And what I found with it, the best thing, for me at least, is to get my head in it first like so, find what they call the sweet spot, which is the best looking image, and then I lower the back part here and then tighten it up to get it fit. And I found it's okay. It doesn't fit as well as some of the other headsets that I looked at that had an additional Velcro adjustment. So you're going to spend some time, I think, kind of tweaking it to get it to exactly where you want it to be. My biggest problem with it is that my head is narrower than the headset is, so I'm getting a lot of light leaking in from the sides on it. And this is one of the issues that I have found now using a bunch of different VR headsets, is that apparently my head shape and the way my eyes work is a lot different than most other people in the world, because I'm always finding these little quirky issues with fit and light bleeding through, and in one case a lot of distortion with the lenses on the headset on the valve index. So for me, I just apparently have some problems that makes it difficult for me to find the right headset. So I would strongly suggest, as you're looking at these things, to maybe go into a Microsoft store where they sell these and try it out first to make sure that it's going to work well for you. And hopefully someone at that store will be versed in this and give you a good idea as to how it all comes together. The audio is built in on this, and the speakers actually are very good on this device. They have some adjustability, not a lot, but you can move them forward and back here and up and down to find the right position for you. I don't believe there's a headphone jack on this though, so I think you might be limited to the headset that or the headphones here that they have included with it. But you do have some volume adjustment here on the headset to get everything just right. But the sound wasn't bad out of these. It was pretty immersive and sounded great actually for, again, a relatively low-cost headset. Now the headset weighs 1.42 pounds or 644 grams. That's a little on the heavier side, but I think they balanced out the weight pretty well. I never felt all that fatigued wearing it. And the padding is super thick on this, among the thicker I have seen on a number of these VR headsets that I've used. Very comfortable to wear, no problems once I got everything adjusted to the right spot. And again, it'll take you a little bit of time to get there. But I was not pleased with the cable length. Now remember, you got to hook this up to your PC, and they give you only a 4-meter cable. And this has to connect, in my case, to the back of my computer and then clear my desk. So I'm losing maybe a meter or a half a meter before I even get out to the play area that I'm going to use it in. So as such, it was feeling about half of the cable length that I had on my other VR headsets, and it severely limited my freedom of movement. What I was able to do was get a USB 3 and an HDMI extension cable hooked up. That worked just fine. I didn't have any performance issues with those two cables, and I was able to greatly extend my play area. And what I'll do is put a link down below to an Amazon affiliate link with the two cables that I bought a few years ago for my HTC Vive. They work just fine here. And I was surprised they did work because this headset is actually powered by the USB cable that plugs into your computer. There's no separate power connector. And I thought maybe the display might be a little dimmer as a result, but it wasn't. It looked just fine and on par with all the other VR headsets that I used. And all you have to do is plug in the HDMI and the USB into your Windows 10 PC, and then it just installs itself, and you'll immediately be brought to the Windows Mixed Reality app. You can set up your play area, which is what I did, and within 5 or 10 minutes, you are in virtual reality, provided your computer is meeting the hardware specifications. So let's take a look now at the controllers. You get two in the box, and they follow the Microsoft Mixed Reality design. There's one for each hand, and they have a label on them to indicate which hand is supposed to hold them, but it'll become very obvious when you grab them. There are capacitive thumb pads here that click, along with thumb sticks that also click. You have a Windows button on both to pull up your Windows control panel. You also have a system menu button here that different VR apps use in different ways. On the bottom is a grip button, so if you're in a VR game that requires you to pick up something, you can hold down that grip button to replicate a hand closing. They also have a trigger here on the front of each of these controllers as well, which is used in different ways depending on the game that you're using. These halos here will light up when everything is connected, and that is how the headset's cameras track their position. The problem, though, is that if these go out of range of the headset's cameras, it doesn't know where they are. And I did one example where I put the controller above my head where I could see it, and even though I was moving it around, it was kind of stuck in place. And that is the one advantage you'll have with VR systems that use separate tracking sensors, is that they can track the controllers independently. And even if you have the controller behind your back, it will know where it is. And there are a few games like Space Pirate Trainer and a few others where you might have the controller out of view with a shield up while you might be shooting at something with the other one. And that might become an issue for games where you will be moving your hand in places that the headset can't see. And that's the one disadvantage with this inside-out tracking that you'll have on the Windows Mixed Reality headset. But that limitation aside, the controllers did track better than I anticipated, and it was an overall good experience in just about every VR app that I loaded up. They also have some haptic feedback as well, so they'll vibrate in reaction to things that are happening within your VR game. Now, one thing I noticed as I was playing around inside of the mixed reality home world is that this doesn't feel like it's something Microsoft is focusing a lot on. They have some beautifully designed models that are up on these little pedestals, but when you go over to click on one, it just pulls up windows, and in some cases it gets really glitchy and it just drops a whole bunch of windows on you that you can't close. It wasn't a good experience at all. And then when I jumped back to my desktop computer and looked at some of the games they were promoting, they were actually promoting games from Valve's Steam VR store above the ones they were selling in the Microsoft store, if that gives you any indication as to where they are probably headed with this mixed reality technology. I have a feeling that the large price drop on this headset might be more of a liquidation. The good news is that it works seamlessly with Steam VR. There's a free app that you install from Steam, and once you got that going, it'll function every bit as nicely as my Vive headsets do. So I didn't find anything that wasn't compatible with it, so that was a good thing. And as a result of that Steam compatibility layer, I spent most of my time playing games from my Steam VR library. You're looking at the lab running here. This is Valve's little collection of VR mini games that they launched when the HTC Vive first came out. It looks and runs great, no problems, fully compatible. The display looks much better than my original Vive display looked. It runs at 90 frames per second in the headset, just like some of the other premium headsets do, and I had really no problems with anything, and I really enjoyed the experience there, and that was with a native Valve game, so that was a good sign. I then loaded up Beat Saber, which is one of my favorite current VR games, and that one, of course, ran just as nicely on the headset as it does on some of the other ones that I was playing with, so that was a good thing. And actually with Beat Saber, what I really liked about it was the fact that I'm not hitting the menu button by accident with it like I do on my HTC Vive controllers, so it was a little bit of a better experience with Beat Saber. The only problem would be that when the controller went out of view, sometimes it would have a little bit of a delay in catching up with the tracking again when it came back into view. Very slight delay, but enough that it might throw you off if you're very much used to those external sensors tracking your controller position. We also tried another game that I've really been getting into lately called Crisis VRegade. This is kind of like stepping into a 90s light gun game. It's a ton of fun. You have to dodge bullets and stuff and fire back at bank robbers and whatnot, and it was a very good experience here. Again, it looked and played great. No problems at all. The next one here is the Apollo 11 moon landing experience. This is the 50th anniversary after all, and there's a great little experience that you can download where you can experience the launch and the orbital maneuvers, and then of course landing on the moon in the lunar lander. The higher resolution of the headset really shined here. You could get a lot of detail on the control panels and everything. It was just a great little experience there within the headset. Again, no problems whatsoever. And I also checked out the VR version of Minecraft. If you have the Windows 10 edition, I believe you get this as part of the deal. And you start off just kind of sitting on this chair watching your Minecraft game play out on a virtual screen, and then you can hit a button and it will just immerse you into the world that you've been creating all this time. And if you have worlds that you've been working on before you had VR, you can now step inside of them and walk around. It's really cool. It can get a little disorienting because you can kind of move yourself around with the thumbstick, which can make you a little dizzy, and if you're prone to motion sickness, perhaps even sick. But if you push a button, it will very quickly pull you back out to that living room scene so you can kind of get your cookies back and then go back in again later. It was a really fun experience, and I think it's a neat implementation of an existing game in virtual reality, and this is one of the exclusives that you'll find within the mixed reality store, although they do allow Oculus players to use it through the Oculus store as well. So overall, I was very pleased with the performance I saw out of this headset, and I think if you are considering the Oculus Rift S, you might want to give this one some consideration as well, especially if you can buy it from a place that allows for easy returns. And the reason is that you have a higher resolution out of this headset, you have a better quality display with the OLED versus the LED on the Rift S, and it runs at a full 90 frames per second versus 80 on the Rift S. It's just a better VR experience for the price point, and I think they've got a bit of an edge here right now given the $299 price tag that I am seeing. If it was priced higher, it might be more of a toss-up because I have felt better quality out of some of the higher priced headsets that are out there, but at its price point currently, I think it's pretty darn good. You do, of course, want to make sure that your PC has the system requirements to make this work to its full potential. That, of course, means having a decent GPU and a relatively modern, up-to-date i5 or i7 class processor or the equivalent AMD chip, because VR is very demanding, especially when you're running high-resolution games at this frame rate. So that's something you'll definitely want to make sure you have in place. And if you're not sure, head over to Steam and download their VR benchmark that's free. It will test your system and let you know if it's ready for virtual reality or not. It will test and see if it can hit those 90 frames per second speeds in the games. And I think that's something you should definitely try out if you are uncertain. So that's going to do it for this mixed reality headset. I'll be back soon at some point with the HTC Vive Pro once I do a few modifications to it. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the 4 Guys with Quarters podcast, emudev.org, Tom Albrecht, Brian Parker, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.